Han Jinsung, the most feared builder in Seoul, stopped his motorcade for one reason. A girl with electric blue braids was spray painting his tower in broad daylight. But when he looked at the mural, his blood ran cold. Because the lines on that wall were not random. They were a perfect map of a secret tunnel network buried beneath Seoul. A network almost no one alive was supposed to know existed. Han Jinsung's motorcade never stopped. Not for red lights. Not for rain. Not for anyone. But that morning, 6 black sedans slammed to a stop beneath Han Tower 1. Because there, on the north face of Han Tower 1, a mural was blooming in real time. Neon rose. Burnt gold. Deep violet. And buried inside the color was something no one on that street understood yet. A blueprint. A warning. A secret. 3 security men stepped forward, hands hovering near their weapons. He walked toward the girl in paint-splattered overalls, his face locked in cold focus. He stopped 2 feet behind her. His eyes had already caught it. A cluster of lines in the lower corner. Sharp angles. Exact spacing. Not art. Engineering. She turned, looked him up and down, and wiped neon paint on her thigh. Then she held out a wet brush. "You're blocking my light," she said. "And honestly? This building is depressing. It needs a soul." She tilted her head. "You want to help or just stand there looking expensive?" No one around them moved. Everyone on that street knew exactly who she had just spoken to. She clearly did not. Jinsung did not answer. He looked past her shoulder at the lower left corner of the mural. For the first time that morning, his expression changed. Because the pattern she had painted was one he knew exactly. And she had drawn it perfectly. He had drawn that same geometry himself 10 years earlier. Inside a tunnel no public map had ever shown. Which meant one of 2 things was true. Either someone had sent her to expose a secret buried beneath Seoul. Or the girl in front of him had just uncovered a criminal network that could get her killed. And she had absolutely no idea what wall she had just painted. His security team moved in. "Step away from the wall." "Hyun." One word from Jinsung, and 3 armed men stopped where they stood. Zora looked between them. Her Korean wasn't perfect, but she caught enough. She crossed her arms. "You always let your employees finish sentences, or is that a special occasion kind of thing?" Jinsung studied her. Paint covered her hands, her arms, even the side of her neck. She had been here long enough to stop caring who saw her. "You're not from here," he said in English. "No," she said. "Which is probably why I noticed the city can't breathe." "Philadelphia," she said. "You're going to make me clean this, aren't you?" He looked back at the mural. "What is this?" "A city trying not to suffocate." She lifted the can and sprayed another line. Jinsung's gaze locked onto the lower corner again. He should have shut her down. Instead, he stayed. His office was 60 floors above the street. The city below looked like a circuit board from up here. Ordered. Predictable. Safe. Safe was a lie, and he knew it. Because somewhere under that ordered skyline, Corridor 7 was still being used. Jinsung sat at his desk and slid a single photograph across to his head of security, Park Sun-min. "Find everything," he said. Sun-min picked up the photo. The girl with the blue braids caught mid-stroke on the wall. "She's just a street artist, sir. Nobody paints one of my sealed tunnel routes by accident." Sun-min left without another word. By evening, a file sat on the desk. Zora Vance. 23. Born in Philadelphia. Art scholarship, dropped out second year. Arrived in Seoul 8 weeks ago on a cultural residency visa. No criminal record. No known affiliations. Renting a single room in Mapogu. Jinsung read the file once. Then he replayed the security footage. Not the whole mural. Just the lower left corner. The part that should have been impossible. By the third replay, he had stopped asking who she was. He was asking how much she knew. Beneath Han Tower 7, behind an unmarked elevator, Jinsung kept a private gallery no city official knew existed. He had her brought there the next morning. Zora walked in expecting lawyers, threats, and handcuffs. Instead, she found 40 architectural blueprints pinned across the walls. Building plans. Tunnel schematics. Infrastructure maps she had no context for. And in the center of the room, a single printed photograph. Her mural. She stared at it. You framed it. I studied it. Jinsung stood at the far end of the room, hands behind his back. This section. He pointed to the lower left of her mural. A cluster of intersecting lines she had painted purely by instinct, the way roots spread underground. Where did this come from? Zora frowned. My head. Why? He walked to the nearest blueprint and held it beside the photograph. She looked. The lines matched. Not close. Not similar. Matched. Zora stared at the blueprint. Then back at the mural. Then back again. That can't be right. Jinsung didn't blink. That pattern, he said quietly, is a tunnel system that doesn't exist on any public map. Zora stopped breathing for a second. She was followed home. Zora caught it 2 blocks from Han Tower 7. A gray sedan. Moving too slowly. Stopping when she stopped. She turned into a convenience store and stood at the window watching it idle. Her heart was loud in her chest, but her face stayed flat. Philly had taught her that much. She called the one number she had for the Han group. A secretary. She asked for Jinsung directly. 3 seconds of silence. Then his voice. Where are you? She told him. Don't move. The sedan was gone by the time Sunman's car arrived. Which told her one thing. Whoever was following her was disciplined enough to disappear before security showed up. But Zora had photographed it. Plates. Driver. The logo barely visible on the rear window. She handed Sunmin her phone. He looked at the logo and his expression didn't change, but something in his posture did. He drove her home without explaining. At her door he said, "Lock your windows." Who were they? She asked. People who notice things they shouldn't. He handed back her phone. Mr. Han asks that you do not paint any more walls in this district. She stared at him. He can ask. Sungmin almost smiled. I'll tell him that. By nightfall, 3 different people had already requested private copies of the mural photo. Jinsung recognized one of the names immediately. Director Kong. The invitation arrived the next evening. A black card. No signature. One address in Gangnam. Zora almost threw it away. Then she saw the symbol embossed in the corner. The same shape she had painted into the mural without thinking. The building had no signage. A single door, a single guard who stepped aside without being asked. Inside, a staircase led down. The basement opened into a cavern of raw concrete. Murals covered every wall. Old ones. New ones. Layers of color from artists the city had erased. But Zora noticed something strange. The same geometry kept repeating across the walls. Angles. Junctions. Intersections. The exact visual language buried inside her own mural. Jinsung was standing at the far end. "You collect illegal art," Zora said. "I preserve things the city tries to erase." She walked slowly along the walls, reading each piece. The oldest ones were faded. Some were tagged with dates going back 30 years. "These go back 30 years, Zora said quietly. Jinsung nodded once. "Before the tower collapse." She looked at him. "That was your father's project." "Yes." She stopped in front of a small piece near the floor. A child's handprint in red paint, surrounded by names. "What happened here?" "A school that stood where Tower 12 stands now." His voice was even. "The city erased it. I kept what was left." Zora stared at the walls again. Then at her own mural photograph in her hands. Then back at the walls. "No," she said softly. "These are my shapes." She pointed higher. "I painted that geometry. I thought it was instinct." Jinsung didn't answer. Because he had just realized something worse. Zora hadn't discovered the tunnels. The tunnels had been appearing in art for 30 years. The next morning, Jinsung came alone. No security. No sedans. "I want to see your studio," he said. Her studio was a single room. Paint-stained drop cloths on the floor. Dozens of reference photographs pinned to the walls, satellite images of Seoul, subway maps, aerial photography. And in the center, a canvas 6 feet wide covered in a mural she hadn't finished. Jinsung stood in the middle of the room and turned slowly. He stopped at one photograph. A satellite image of the Han district. She had marked it in yellow pen, tracing lines between buildings. "You see the city as a living system," he said. "Everything connects underground," she said. "Water. Power. Transit. The surface is just the face. The real city is what's beneath." He went very still. "Where did you get this image?" he asked. "Google Maps." "Why?" He looked at the yellow lines and went completely still. Because she had traced 3 real tunnel corridors from nothing but public satellite images and instinct. She found the tracker 3 days later. Small. Magnetic. Stuck to the back of her spray can bag. She held it up in the light, turning it between her fingers. Then she walked 6 blocks to a Han Group security office, placed it on the front desk, and asked to see Han Jinsung. They made her wait 40 minutes. When she was finally let in, she dropped the tracker on his desk without a word. Jinsung looked at it. "I was trying to keep you alive." "You were supposed to ask," she said. "Not surveil. Those people in the sedan. I don't care. You don't get to track me because you're scared. I'm not your property." He stood up. "You are standing in the middle of a war you cannot see yet. Then explain it." She met his eyes without flinching. "Or I walk out and finish my mural and you can send whoever you want to follow me." The silence stretched tight. Then, slowly, he picked up the tracker and put it in his drawer. "Sit down," he said. She sat. He came around the desk and sat across from her, not behind it. The first time she had ever seen him without that barrier between them. "I need to show you something," he said. By then, the wrong man had already seen the mural. He came through the lobby of Han Tower 1 like he owned it. Director Kong Woo-sik. 54. Gray suit. Polished shoes. The kind of face that smiled with the bottom half only. He had spent 10 years moving illegal cargo through Han tunnels no one was supposed to talk about. And now an American street artist had painted one of his routes on a public wall. He ran the Han Group's infrastructure licensing division. On paper. Below paper, he ran something else entirely. Jinsung met him in the boardroom on the 40th floor. No staff. No recording. Kong sat down and folded his hands. "The artist," he said. "The American girl." "She's a visiting residency artist," Jinsung said. "Nothing more. She painted the north face of Tower 1. Kang's voice was mild, almost bored. "The section near the service access. An accident of composition." Jinsung. Kong leaned forward, just slightly. "Her mural maps Corridor 7. Entrance to entrance. To the centimeter." He let that land. Now either she is working for someone, or she has a gift that makes her very, very dangerous to people who use Corridor 7. Jinsung said nothing. "She needs to stop painting," Kong said. "Permanently. She's under my protection." Kong smiled with just his mouth. "She's under your attention. That's different." He stood. "Don't let it become a problem, Jinsung. For either of you." Zora's mural was gone the next morning. Not painted over. Chemically stripped. The wall was raw and pale, like a scar. She stood in front of it with her bag on her shoulder and her jaw tight. Around her, pedestrians moved past without stopping. The city absorbed the erasure like it hadn't happened. She photographed the bare wall. Then she got her cans out. She started again. She was 3 minutes in when a woman approached. Expensive coat. Sharp heels. Black hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. "You must be the one," the woman said in perfect English. She looked at the fresh lines of paint like she was examining something distasteful. "So you're the girl who thinks paint makes her untouchable." Zora kept painting. "I don't know who that is." "He's the reason you're still walking around Seoul instead of sitting in a detention cell." The woman stopped beside her. "My name is Director Kong Mira. I manage community compliance for the Han district." "Congratulations. Stop painting this wall." Zora pressed the nozzle. A clean arc of neon rose appeared on the concrete. "File a complaint," she said. Myra's voice dropped to something quieter and much colder. "The next people they send won't speak first." It happened fast. 2 men in black. A side street in Mapogu. No words. The first one grabbed her bag. The second one put a hand on her shoulder hard enough to bruise. They were not trying to scare her. They were trying to take her. Zora twisted, threw her elbow back, caught something soft. The grip loosened. She ran. She made it 4 blocks before Sungman's car cut across the pavement in front of her. He was out of the door before it stopped. He looked at her hands. Her shoulder. The torn strap on her bag. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice was steady. Her hands were not. Sungmin made a call. She caught 2 words. Corridor 7. At the tower, Jinsung was waiting in the basement garage. He crossed the space between them before the elevator doors were fully open. He stopped himself a foot away. His hands at his sides, tight. "Your shoulder," he said. "Bruised. Not broken." He looked at the torn bag strap. Something moved across his face, deep and fast, like a fault line shifting. "This ends tonight," he said. "Tell me what Corridor 7 is," she said. "Right now." "All of it." He looked at her for a long moment. "Come upstairs," he said. The safe house was in Yongsan. A clean apartment on the 9th floor with blackout curtains and 3 deadbolts and a view of the Han River. He told her everything. The tunnels had started as legal infrastructure. Service access. Maintenance corridors. Emergency routes beneath the Han district. Then Kong turned them into something else. Money moved there. Cargo moved there. People moved there. And Jinsung had known long enough to hate himself for it. Zora sat across from him and listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. "You've been protecting him," she said. "Not accusing. Just stating it. I've been containing him. And my murals map his routes. 6 of them, so far." His voice was controlled, but she could hear the weight behind it. "Kong believes you're working for a rival or for law enforcement. He will not stop." She looked at the river. "I painted what I felt," she said. "How is that possible?" "That," he said quietly, "is what I need to understand." She found it on his left forearm. A burn scar. Wide. Healed smooth but still visible in the right light. She saw it when he rolled up his sleeve to show her the tunnel maps. She saw the burn scar on his forearm and knew the story immediately. Tower 6. The collapse that killed 19 men and left him alive underground. "Someone sold out the structure," he said. "I learned early that what is buried is what kills you." Zora understood then. Not just the obsession with control. The obsession with foundations. With what was hidden beneath the surface. "You build perfect structures," she said slowly, "because a corrupt one almost buried you alive." He met her eyes. "And you paint chaos onto perfect structures," he said, "because you've been invisible your whole life." Neither of them looked away. It was the map that broke the wall. She had spent the night in the safe house, and by morning she had covered one wall in sketches. Fragments from her murals. Tunnel patterns. Intuitive geometry she had been carrying in her hands for weeks without knowing what it was. Jinsung stood behind her, studying it. "Here," he said quietly, pointing to a junction in one of her sketches. His hand was close to hers. "This is the access point under Tower 11. Kong uses it every Thursday." "I painted that in Hyundai 6 weeks ago," she said. "I thought it was abstract." "Nothing you paint is abstract." She turned to say something and found him closer than she expected. The space between them was suddenly very small. She looked at his face. The tight jaw. The carefully controlled eyes that were not, in that moment, controlled at all. "You're scared of me," she said softly. "Yes. Because I see things you want hidden." "Because," he said, "you make me want to show them." For a second, neither of them moved. Like both of them understood that one step closer would change everything. She kissed him first. Brief. Deliberate. He went completely still. Then his hand came up and cupped the side of her face like she was something rare and breakable. And he kissed her back like he meant it. The leak came from inside. Jinsung discovered it at 2 in the morning, 3 days after the safe house. Someone had accessed the tunnel schematics from an internal terminal. Cross-referenced them against Zora's mural photographs. Only 4 people had clearance for both systems. Sung-min, his CFO, his lead architect, Oh Dae-jun, and his personal assistant of 11 years, Cho Yerin. He baited the leak the way his father had taught him. 4 lies. 4 insiders. 4 different stories. By morning, only 1 lie had reached Kang. By Thursday morning, Kang's men were at that location. 24 hours early. Waiting. Jinsung sat alone in his office and stared at Cho Yerin's name on the screen. 11 years. She had been in the tunnels with him the night his father's company nearly collapsed. She had helped rebuild it. He called her impersonally. She walked in already crying. "He has my brother," she said before he could speak. Kang came to the tower the next morning. No appointment. No warning. He walked past reception, past security, all the way to the 60th floor, because he still believed he could. Jinsung let him in. Kang sat down and placed a photograph on the desk. Zora, outside the safe house. Taken the previous evening. "She is not safe," Kang said. "Not anywhere in this city. Not while she keeps painting." Jinsung looked at the photograph. His expression didn't move. "What do you want?" he asked. "Deed the tunnel network to my company. Clean transfer. You walk away, I walk away. The girl lives her life painting walls in Philadelphia. And Corridor 7? Becomes a business matter that no longer involves you." Jinsung leaned back. He looked at Kang the way he looked at a building he was planning to take apart. "You have been using my family's infrastructure for 10 years, he said. "You held the man who sabotaged Tower 6. You kept that over my father until he died. And now you are sitting in my office with a photograph of a woman He stopped. He picked up the photograph and put it face down. "Get out," he said. "I'll give you my answer in 48 hours." That night, her mother called from Philadelphia. "Come home," she said after hearing Zora's voice. "I can't." "Because of him?" Zora looked at the tunnel sketches on the wall. "Because if I leave now, bad people win." After she hung up, she picked up a pencil and looked at the sketches on the wall. All those intuitive lines. All those patterns she had carried inside her without knowing what they were. She picked up her pencil. And she started mapping every corridor she could remember. Not to hide them. To expose them. She gave the map to an investigative journalist at 4 in the morning. If the story ran, there would be no taking it back. No safe house. No quiet fix. No private solution between powerful men. She didn't tell Jinsung. She knew he would stop her. Not to protect Kang. To protect her. But she had been invisible her whole life. In Philly. In Seoul. A girl nobody looked at twice until she put paint on something they cared about. This time she was going to put paint on something that mattered. The journalist, a woman named Park Soyeon from the Chosun Ilbo, looked at the map for a long time. Then she looked at the murals. Then she looked at Zora. "If I publish this," she said, "you will be the source. Your name. Your work. I know. Kang has very dangerous friends. I know that too." Park Soyeon closed the folder. "Why are you doing this?" Zora thought about all the walls in Seoul that had been stripped clean. All the color that had been erased. All the evidence of life that the city swallowed to keep its face perfect. Because someone should, she said. She was back at the safe house by 6. At 7, her phone rang. Jinsung. She answered. Where were you? He asked. I did something, she said. I need you to not be angry. Jinsung was furious until he read the article draft. Then the fury changed shape. It became decision. She mapped the financial transfers too, he said. I gave her everything I had. He set the phone down. Kong will move the moment this goes to print. He'll try to discredit the murals. Claim they're fabricated evidence. So we don't give him time. Jinsung looked at her. I have documentation, he said. 10 years of it. Things I kept because I knew this day would come. His jaw was tight. I just didn't think someone else would be the one to force it. Are you going to help me or not? He stood up and walked to the window. The city spread below them, gray and perfect and hollow. If I release the documentation, the tunnel network becomes public record. My company takes the damage too. Can it survive? Barely. Is it worth it? He turned. Yes, he said. It came out without hesitation. He picked up his phone and called his lawyer. The article hit on Tuesday. By Wednesday, Kong was under investigation. By Thursday, officials were suspended. By Friday, men who had acted untouchable were negotiating for mercy. It moved fast because Jinsung's documentation was precise. Dates. Transactions. Names. 10 years of meticulous record-keeping from a man who trusted nothing and verified everything. Zora's murals ran across the front page of the Chosen Ilbo beside the tunnel schematics. Side by side, the match was undeniable. She stood outside Han Tower 1 on Friday evening and looked at the bare north wall. Clean concrete. 60 feet high. Sungmin appeared at her shoulder. Mr. Han asked me to give you this. He handed her a key card. She turned it over. Roof access, all Han Towers. Then Jinsung was there. No coat. No motorcade. Just him in the fading light. She held up the key card. All of them? Every tower I own. She studied his face. You trust me with your city? He looked up at the skyline. 40 years of perfect gray order, holding its breath. No, he said quietly. He looked back at her. I'm choosing you over it. She started with Tower 1. Jinsung watched from the street below. No security detail. No motorcade. Just him, hands in his pockets, watching color climb the wall he had kept gray for 30 years. Neon rose. Burnt gold. Deep violet. And beneath it all, woven into the composition in lines so precise they looked like architecture, the tunnel network. Every corridor. Every route. Made visible. Made art. Made permanent. Around him, people stopped. Not because they were afraid. Because it was beautiful. By midnight, the north face of Tower 1 was alive. Jinsung climbed to the roof. She was there, sitting on the edge with her legs hanging over the city, looking at the skyline with the expression of someone who had just placed the last piece of something enormous. He sat beside her. She held out her hand. He looked at it. Then at her. Then he placed his hand in hers, and she felt his fingers close slowly, like a man who had forgotten how, remembering. Below them, Seoul blazed. Above them, 40 towers waited. "Ready?" she said. He looked out at his city. His perfect, ordered, terrified city. And for the first time in 30 years, it looked like it might be breathing. "Yes," he said. "Now tell me this in the comments." Zora exposed Kong without asking Jinsung first. Was that courage? Or betrayal? Because in part 2, Jinsung is going to lose money, power, and allies because of what she did. And someone close to him is going to make sure he blames her for it. So if you were Jinsung, would you stand by her, or walk away? Subscribe now, because part 2 gets uglier.